inviting you. Did you get the invite earlier or just now?
No, I did get it earlier.
Okay. That's what I wasn't sure about because I was trying to do it. I used Safari in my MacBook and it wasn't working. So I had to download Chrome. And anyway, people don't give a crap about that. They want to know about
Yeah,
music. And
that's right.
Steve, okay, this is our first co-hosting thing. Steve wanted to do a video on 1971 records. Explain or tell me why you chose that year.
You know, I read actually a book about 71, and it was just a really interesting book. It really went through each month in the music that was happening in 1971 and talked about the history of it. And I found that to be just a really fascinating year. I was 12 in 71 also, and music, I was finally starting to hear it. Now, FM radio in Nebraska, FM radio is basically, we thought was some kind of farm implement company, you know, that you just find out there. No idea. So it was pretty much straight AM radio from what I heard. So what I know of 71, like Led Zeppelin, I didn't have a clue. I didn't know about, the Led Zeppelin Foretell probably about 76. Never heard about it because it wasn't part of what we were living. It was more AM hits. So I kind of pulled some of that stuff.
Okay.
Which I'm going to have to grab I have a couple of them out. I'm going to have to grab a couple more. I mean,
I knew you mentioned 5. I grabbed 10, just 5 as background, which I'm just going to talk about 5 when we do this.
You bet.
The other ones I might just quickly show.
Yep.
I was in 1971, I was 16 to 17. So in August, I turned 17. And I thought, since you picked that year, I just happened to have a that summer was our last, not really, but our last family vacation drive before I kind of went off. I mean, I was a senior. I became a senior that fall in high school. So I'd be going to college. Of course, I lived home my first 2 years in college. I lived in San Francisco and I went to San Francisco State University. But we used to drive down from San Francisco to LA and go to Hollywood and go to Disneyland and SeaWorld and Knott's Berry Farm, and that year, I had long hair then, the first time in my life, kind of 70, 71, my first long. And my parents had one of those painters in Disneyland paint me, those kind of like, so, and I forgot about it, but I was walking in my office. This is me.
Wow.
1971. So I think
Look at
this
that
is what it looked
name.
like when I was listening to these records that we're going to show.
Uh-huh.
And a friend, when I moved to Seattle on my birthday 2 years ago, she had seen this and she bought me this. Talk about separated at birth.
It's all the same.
Without the beard, yeah. So I hope I don't offend people out there, but it's just a look, an iconic look. So people, me and Jesus, we get confused all the time, So I thought because this is like our first. We could call this our 1971 Easter-a-thon.
Well, you know what? I have an album picked that will just fit right in for that.
Okay. So should we alternate and then talk? And if we want, do it.
Yeah, we're going to have to because I have mine are one here, a couple there. I have to grab a couple real quick. So go ahead and start.
I'm a prepared person. So I pull these things. So
I was going to be prepared. I thought it was just going to be a quick thing. So don't worry, go.
It might be quick. Well, we'll see. Okay. My first one is If I Can Only Remember My Name. David Crosby, 1971, came out early in the year. He was working on this. This was a time where all the members of Crosby, Stills & Nash were doing their first solo album. Stephen Stills did his first one. Great album. One of my backups here is Songs for a Beginner by Graham Nash. But David Crosby was hanging around in San Francisco. And this is recorded at Wally Heider's in San Francisco. And with all the San Francisco, like the members of the Dead, co-produced by Jerry Garcia. Most of the Jefferson Airplane are on here. Grace Slick, Neil Young's on here. Joni Mitchell is on here. And this was recorded at Wally Heider's around the same time that the Grateful Dead were recording American Beauty in the same studio, not exactly the same sessions or anything, but it had all those great people that were hanging around San Francisco. So it's got a great moody feel to it. It's like a stoner psychedelic album. There's a song here called Tamalpais High, I think it's called, at 12 noon, something like that. And which is a double entendre in a way, because across in Marin County, where a lot of these rock people were living across from San Francisco, there's Tamalpais High School. And the thing is, all the seniors would cut school to go smoke pot in Mill Valley, and Tamalpais High at 12 noon is when the students were going smoking pot. So that's all I can say. But this is a beautiful record. So if I can only,
I don't own that.
You don't know? Oh, you need to have this record. It's moody. The CD, expanded CD, is beautiful. It's got a surround version, which I don't really do much anymore, but gorgeous record. I mean, you hear Neil Young, you hear, Grace Slick, Airplane people, but it's got a good mood to it. So
does it have a similar feel to what was going on with Crosby, Stills, and Nash then, or is he taking it a whole different direction?
It's got a similar feel, not as upbeat. It's got the moody side, so it's got some of the sci-fi moodiness that Paul Kantner did with Blows Against the Empires, which was billed as Jefferson Starship, but it wasn't really a Starship. Again, it was a solo sci-fi album. It's got a little feel that Neil Young, very rhythmic, a little bit of Joni Mitchell around that time.
Yeah.
Too.
Okay.
It's recorded so beautifully. It's got a little feel of American Beauty period and Working Man's Dead period of the Grateful Dead, that acoustic-y kind of feel to it with electric stuff. There's a great duet with Neil Young on here, and it's just great. Mickey Hartsoner, David Freeberg from Quicksilver, Gary Burden, I think. No, it's not the same person. I'm sorry, but anyway, it's got all the Dead are on here, and it's just beautiful. So it's
okay.
a winner. It's
all
a
right.
winner.
Okay, first one I got is War, World is a Ghetto. And I picked this up in where I was living, Central City, Nebraska. Now, in Nebraska, you can tell how good a town is by how many grain elevators they have, and the bigger the grain elevator, the cooler the town was. We had a good grain elevator, so we had 2,000 people. We were a big-ass place. So I go to the Dairy Queen. The Dairy Queen's where everyone hung out at. That's where the cool kids were. That's not generally where I hung out at. And I walk in there, and we have a jukebox. And what was playing was Cisco Kid. And
He was a friend of mine.
He was. He was
a friend of everybody.
Everybody. What a guy. He got around.
He bought everyone drinks, probably. That's why.
and so the cheerleaders and the football guys are all hanging out by this, and they're listening to Cisco Kid. And I go, is that what the cool kids listen to? Is this what it's all about? And it just stuck in my mind. And then they had the song on there, The World is a Ghetto. And we sang that in choir. And so many of the songs that stick with me, are from school and choir. You had to take choir, from grade school. Did you have to take choir in school?
I was in the choir. I'm sort of semi-tone deaf, but I was in the choir. I was a choir in junior high school.
Okay, yeah, we had to take junior high school and that. But we sang The World is a Ghetto. Now, I'm in a town of 2,000, all white. And so we do a little, The World is a Ghetto. I'm not sure if anybody in the audience really got what that was about, but
I could say some really bad taste jokes and, like middle America, white middle America singing about the ghetto.
Exactly.
Power to the people, right on, Steve.
Yeah, we didn't have a clue. It just had a nice beat and was easy to dance to. So, but
yeah, the ghetto is Birmingham, Michigan.
It was. Yeah, right. But Cisco Kid, man, it stuck with me. That was just like the greatest song in the whole world, because that's what cool kids listen to.
I love how War, I got the first one, Eric Burton Declares War, Burton from the Animals, and that with Spill the Wine, that great single. I bought that album because of that. And I think they made, 2 albums with Eric Burton, but I love that group just blossomed and went further, way further than that. And the whole albums are good. You know, there weren't just like hit cuts. I mean, you say World is a Cisco Kid, but the whole album they have great moods to it. And Lee Oscar, the harmonica player, is incredible.
Oh my God, yes. And you're right. And they just kept going, and they went to jazz. I mean, it went all over the place. I finally got most of their 70s catalog. I mean, there's so much good stuff in the 70s.
I'm going to show this just because you reminded me. I happen to have a Lee Oscar branded harmonica in the key of C.
In the key of C.
I think it's the key of C. That's it.
Damn, there it is. All right. Hey.
Okay, next.
Next, go ahead.
Okay. A favorite album of mine, and all of these albums except one, with the one offshoot, are the copies I actually bought in 1971. So this is Motel Shot by Delaney and Bonnie and Friends, Motel Shot. It had the illusion of, for years, the whole idea was when bands go on the road, Delaney and Bonnie, there's a Delaney and Bonnie and Friends album with Eric Clapton, with the the Rolls Royce on the cover, which is one of the best live albums ever. And it's got Dave Mason, Eric Clapton, Delaney and Bonnie. I think Leon Russell played a couple of things. Great tour album, great live album. This album was came out under the premise that after, when they're on the road in the hotel room at night, they kind of sit around and they play acoustic guitars, maybe a little, small keyboards, but bang on boxes for percussion and everything. The truth is, this was recorded in LA in the living room of I think is it Bruce Bachman? It's the guy that either produced or engineered the Doors records. I can't remember. But this is a great sounding record. It's got Leon Russell. It's got Graham Parsons is on it. Delaney and Bonnie. God, I forgot who else. Duane Allman, Jim Keltner, Bonnie Bramlett. And it's got a great feel. It has their biggest hit ever, Never Ending Song of Love, that was covered. I've got a never ending song of love. Anyway, maybe you haven't heard it.
Really, I know, but you do a good rendition.
You'd like it. It's got a very Americana rootsy feel to it, soulful. Almost sounds like Joe Cocker is singing uncredited in background on one. I don't know if that is him. This is the original album, original cover. This came out on Elektra, I think, or Atco, I'm sorry. And then Record Store Day a couple years ago put this expanded edition out, which is really good. It's got the demo stuff on it. I don't like the cover. Okay. They put the cover inside here somewhere there. But this talks about it, and it talks about also Jock Holtzman of Elektra Records, who had signed them and then dumped them after a while. It said that Delaney Bramlett was the biggest asshole in the record business. But the records are good, moody, rootsy. I think you'd like this. I mean, I know you go, a lot of your stuff, you have that ethnic and the Africana and stuff. Yeah. And not that this is that, but it's got that rootsy thing, and it's very Southern soulful, not upbeat, not like the Allman Brothers, but like Derek and the Dominoes without Derek and the Dominoes.
Sure.
A little more rootsy than that, but especially this one. You can find it pretty cheap usually if you pick it up at Motel Shot. It's my favorite album. I have all Delaney and Bonnie albums.
That's interesting. Graham Parsons was on that. That's
I think he's on a couple of cuts. I mean, it was all those LA people were hanging out. Leon Russell. That was the time, I guess, when Leon Russell put together the band that became On the Road for Joe Cocker, Mad Dogs and the Englishmen, and all that stuff. So that actually is later. So I'll mention that later.
All right. Could you show me that picture of your twin again? Your twin brother?
This one or
the other one.
The other guy.
Yeah.
Jesus?
The other guy.
Jesus.
Yeah. I had this for him. Okay. Jesus Christ Superstar.
You're funny. You just said that, and my Siri went off looking for Jesus Christ.
I hope. Well, if he's here, we're screwed. So,
Well, he's
all
gonna
right.
come back and
So,
end the
so
pandemic.
I picked this one. You know, my father was a minister. Obviously, Jesus rock was all over the place. You had Godspell going on. This was happening. And every high school was doing Jesus Christ Superstar or Godspell. I don't care. We're at Nebraska that year. You had to do one of them, or for the next like 10 years going. Obviously, it had the song. Wow, that, hey, isn't that? Did you see that? It's blank. Oh, that is awesome.
I
Besides,
guess he's risen,
yes, he
and
has.
he took the libretto with him.
Yeah, it still has the book. But this was one of the first albums I actually ever bought. And when that movie came out, it was like, God, they're wearing Nazi hats. What the hell's with that?
The
I mean,
movie
it was a
version.
little above me at the time, and I didn't quite get it. But the guy who sings Judas Iscariot, holy crap, does that guy have vocals? I mean, his songs just rock. And high school, choirs again, we sang Jesus Christ Superstar. The band, we played Jesus Christ Superstar. And, you always had to play, what the hell was that
So
song? I
you're
don't
the
know how to
Christ,
love
you're the great Jesus Christ.
you. That's the best song in the world, though.
That's the showstopper when you see the performance, right?
Oh, there would be no doubt. I
Yeah.
mean, the guy, whoever got chosen to play that, they got to go, yes, I can just ham it up.
Did you see the live version on NBC last fall or last year? That one song, you know who does it?
Yes,
It was Alice Cooper.
yes.
He comes out.
Was that, he was out by a pool or something?
It's live on TV. It comes down, and the whole audience just does that. What live? They do those musicals once a year.
Okay. No,
Yeah.
I missed that one. I've seen several different versions, and whenever they do that one, it's just it's a hoot. So, but this one was big. We went saw Godspell at the theater, but yeah, I've always liked this thing, and most all those songs are in my iPod. I just enjoy it.
That actually is a favorite album of mine too. I remember in 1971, I forgot what year, but obviously it was 71. I remember seeing it. That's the box. It came out in a box first, a box set.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I saw it, and it was one of those few albums at the time I bought because of the cover. I knew nothing about it, but it was the story. So I brought it home, and I played it every day 2 or 3 times for a month or two. And for me, the Jewish boy, right?
Yeah.
It taught me about this. I didn't know the story of Christ, that story of Christ.
Okay, sure.
So it taught me the whole thing. Of course, now, at the time, what's about the last 7 days or whatever it is or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I pull a record out, and I get people bitch at me because every year I pull that album out at Christmas time, and of course it's an Easter album.
Yeah.
But I love that record, and I love that version because that's the original with Ian Gillan from Deep Purple. The vocalist plays Jesus, and I like that better than the soundtrack for the movie that came out. But I love that record a lot. It's the band. It's not overproduced. And it's just a great rock. It's really a good rock and roll rock opera. I agree with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So that's my second.
All right. This is an album. This is not my original copy. This is a reissue. But Procol Harum's Broken Barricades. This is, I believe, I can't remember if it's their 4th or 5th album. This is the last album that Robin Trower played on before he left the band. I did a whole showcase on Procol Harum. I love them. Yeah. Obviously, people know Whiter Shade of Pale. That's the biggest. Whiter Shade of Pale is the most played song in the history of played songs in the UK. Jukeboxes, down everything. Whiter Shade of Pale. That is not on this, but it opens up with this great song, Simple Sister, that has a great kind of, I want to say hard rock, but psychedelic-y hard rock lick by Robin Trower. And this is a really good album. It's not my favorite of theirs, but it obviously came out in 1971. This is Salvo put a series of expanded CDs and vinyl out. The vinyl never came out in this country for some reason, the reissues, and they have the expanded from the CD version of outtakes and demo versions on the second disc. But I just love this. Gary Brooker, their lead singer, always was to me one of the best white soulful voices in rock and roll. Great, great record. So
I've never seen anybody really show that one. That's
yeah,
interesting.
I think you'd like it. You like, I mean, you like everything, or
Yeah.
I like about watching your channels that you show all the different genres, and depending with your mood, I mean, you get like we all do, we get our moments of, now I'm going to do Africa stuff. What I like is the challenge is I don't know if you ever listened to Rob Sounds Strange. I don't know half the records he's talking about, these classical records.
Yeah.
I'd love to see a comparison of you and him pronouncing the names of those. He does the perfect, elocution of those names. It's amazing.
Yep. And I write to him all the time. So that's how you say it. Like, I'll remember how to say it. It's going right in and out.
Exactly. Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, let's hope no one shuts this down off my next one, because I'm going to pick Neil Diamond Stones.
Oh, that's okay.
It's a great.
I don't think I've heard that album straight through. What songs are on it? Or I'm sure
I Said is on here. Crunchy Granola Sweet, Chelsea Morning, Suzanne, Stones. There is
covering some other people's stuff, a few things.
Yeah.
Randy Newman song. Oh, I think it's going to rain today. That's a great song. I'm a big Randy Newman fan, so anything Randy Newman. Tom Paxton song. Oh, that's a great selection of songs.
It is. It goes back to in the car, clicking on the AM radio. When we finally got a radio, it was a luxury in the 60s. My dad didn't believe we needed radio or air conditioning.
Did you have a toilet?
No, you know what? The parsonage, the congregation did give us a toilet. The house.
I saw you get your toilet paper off trees in the back. So
yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's because I learned when I was a kid. You got to just grow your own, man. Yeah. But so on this, I Said. It still makes the hair on the back of my neck just stand up, because the production, the orchestration just comes in. I mean, it is. To me, it's just a phenomenal song. It makes me happy. It makes me feel good. Crunchy Granola Sweet. It's fast paced. He's
That's so
happy.
California. That's so 1971.
Exactly. I don't know. I hadn't listened to this when we talked about doing this. I'm thinking about 1971. I was trying to think albums that meant. I mean, because there's so many great albums that happened that year, right? Yeah. The Stones, everybody, the Who. But what did I listen to, and what did I really like and meant a lot? And this was one. Again, in choir, guess what? You're going to sing Neil Diamond. You always have to sing him. So it was toward, to me, the end of his great period. After Jonathan Livingston, I hate Heartlight. That Heartlight one, where the E.T. freaking song. Sorry, I'm not a fan of that thing at all. My wife loves it.
Wasn't him Barbra Streisand?
Yeah, I think so.
Star is Born?
Yes.
No, or what? Wait. That's Chris Christopherson, but he did one of those.
He did. He did some of that. I don't know, Bette Midler. But here he still had some pretty cool stuff, and the production was neat. So yeah, Neil Diamond Stones. I just listened to it again and go, damn, that's a good album.
I'll check that album out. I'll look for it, because I like the early stuff, like Solitary Man.
Yes.
And, what a great songwriter. He wrote "I'm a Believer" for the Monkees. I mean,
absolutely
great songwriter. And it's funny, because I went to the Last Waltz, and the band did at Winterland, and the big thing about that is he comes on with his sort of blue suit, I think, and he stuck out like a sore thumb in that group of
he did. And the huge hair.
Yeah, everyone had huge hair then, but you're right. Yeah, he just didn't fit in. But I still like. But Robbie Robertson had just produced an album of his, which I never heard.
Is that why?
That's the connection. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I always wondered why. I mean, of all the people,
it was right before that. I think it was a year before that. I don't remember the name of the record. Someone's going to comment here and tell us all about that. But hey,
okay,
I like that.
There we have it.
The whole thing about this year, from like 69, 70, 71, 72, was really about the singer-songwriters like, Joni Mitchell and James Taylor and Elton John and Neil Diamond, and the California scene, like that echoes in the valley, that whole thing that was happening in Laurel Canyon. But as I said earlier in the video, in the same with Delaney and Bonnie and all that. But I've always been a friend of Leon, a friend, not a friend. I've never met the man. A fan of Leon Russell, and Shelter Records, I think, was his offshoot, originally part of ABC, distributed, then Capitol, kept going different labels. It originally came out, this is an original copy because the logo was the Superman logo. But then if you look on, they got a cease and desist from, was it DC Comics? And they look in later copies of things like J.J. Cale, everybody on Shelter, there's a black bar through Shelter Records. But Leon Russell was a member before, in the 60s, a member of the Wrecking Crew, and he had short hair, piano player, played on all those records. I think he played on the single Alley Oop.
Okay.
Sonny Bono.
Alley Oop.
But he was hot for a few years. I mean, he went on the road and did Mad Dogs and Englishmen with Joe Cocker and company. And he was on Concert for Bangladesh with George Harrison, played on his records. But this was a huge record. Leon Russell and the Shelter People. I remember it's my original because for some reason I used to write my name on.
You're one of them bastards. You're one of them.
But he's got a great version of Hard Rain Gonna Fall, the Dylan song, the Ballad of Mad Dogs and Englishmen, Dylan's It Takes a Lot to Laugh, a great version of Beware of Darkness, the George Harrison song from All Things Must Pass. He plays on that. But this has, and also Clyde King and all these like background singers with it. You know, he had also a gospel piano sound, the way he played. He's from Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I just love Leon Russell, and he passed away a few years ago.
Did Petty meet up with him when he was in Oklahoma, or when they were with Mudhoney, Mud Crutch? You know, they went to Oklahoma.
I don't know that. That could be. You know, I did an LA video recently, and I included Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, and I got, when I did my public service announcement bitching about politics, I got one person complaining. When I did the LA one, I got a shitload of, can I say that, complaining that Petty's not an LA band because he's from Gainesville. I know where people are from, but everyone went to LA. And I argued that Mudcrunch was Gainesville and went around. But once they hit LA, they became the Heartbreakers and everything was recorded there. Now I know you could go crazy doing those videos.
But you're right. Everyone went to LA. You wanted to make a record, you had to go to LA.
Yeah, or New York maybe, but LA, you wanted to be, you go to Hollywood, you go to LA. That was the thing. So he's from Tulsa, and like J.J. Cale's from Tulsa or Oklahoma. And just had a great gospel-y soul song. And he grew this freakish hair compared to look at his crew cut days in the Wrecking Crew. It's hysterical, but great arranger, great producer.
In 1982, I was in Boston, and out in the middle of this square in downtown Boston, there was a bunch of people around. I heard this piano going. Go over there. There's this guy with the long white hair by then, the beard. It was Leon Russell just playing the piano out in the middle somewhere in Boston, downtown. And I'm looking at it, I go, God, that guy's Leon Russell. Not like I really knew a lot, but I go, that is pretty damn cool. But my wife has no interest in music, so off we went. So much for that concert.
His first 4, 5, 6 albums are really great. I know he went on Hard Times years later, and he was huge, almost like the Orson Welles huge, And there was that record, which, I listened to it once or twice, and I didn't get it. Maybe I should listen to it again. I don't have it anymore. I think I bought the CD and got rid of it. Elton John did a duet album with him, produced it, and brought him back about maybe 6, 7 years ago. It was like this Leon and Elton John, because Elton John was always a big fan of records and his music and really influenced him early on. But I should listen to it again now. Maybe I like it more. You know how sometimes something doesn't hit you, and if you keep it, great. If you don't, then all of a sudden you hear it in a different light and you go, wait a second, that's great. What was I an idiot?
Absolutely.
We're idiots a lot, aren't we, Steve?
Yes. There is a ton of stuff I've been re-listening to that I thought sucked. When I first bought it, I got $1, $2, and I'm listening, damn, that's good stuff. That is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
All right, my next one, Yes Songs. Now, this came about, I did not hear this in 1971. My brother went to college in 75. So he comes home from college. Now, my brother's super cheap. He wouldn't spend a penny on anything. His whole idea was to tell me this is really good and I'll go buy it and he'll listen to it, which is what he did. Not telling me there's 3 LPs to the whole damn thing. But, I was listening to BTO, just any, your basic rock. And he comes back from college.
Say BTO? Bachman Turner?
Yes, BTO. Yeah, Bachman Turner.
Got it.
Seals and Crofts. And he comes back from college and goes, you have to get this. This is the most wonderful thing in the whole wide world. And obviously it's a 3. No, 4.
That's when prog groups started getting bigger and bigger with their albums.
Oh my God, yeah. This one, let's just do it. And so I went and I bought the sucker. So I mean, this it's been used. And it was just amazing. I'd never heard anything like this. I'd had no idea anything about prog. I didn't know about prog probably until I got into the VC. But what? That's prog. That's what they call that crap, huh? It was to me, it was amazing. It was so different, so out there. I could see why I liked it. When I went to college 2 years later, I felt now I was cool because I had this, along with my Bachman Turner Overdrive. So, everything in my world was pretty darn good. But God, that was a nice album. Just because my brother's cheap. So
I almost pulled. I actually pulled, but I put it back. The Yes album with the kind of green cover that came out in '71. Also, that was almost one of my picks here because I love that song. I know all good people. Like John Anderson, but
well, yeah. Good luck. Well, yeah. This one here. What were the Sunrise? Oh, long distance run around. They also did All Good People. Yeah, they did.
That's when them and Emerson, Lake and Palmer and all those bands were doing like double albums and triple albums, and like it was. I think all of a sudden that I was into that, and then once punk started happening, it was a relief after like things were getting so excessive. With Rick Wakeman with a million things and drummers, and you get a 2 or 3 minute punk song. Yeah. It's different. Now I can like everything, but you go through these phases when you're growing up.
Yeah, and that was, and I think he liked this because it was a live album. Basically, it was all their greatest hits. So you can get it all there on 3 LPs, and that took all my paper out money for probably a couple months to get that album. So there's a lot of blood in that.
Well, my last one of the main 5 here is a live album that wasn't going to be a live album. It was originally, I didn't know about it this way. It was a live studio broadcast on KABC FM, I guess FM radio in New York. Obviously, I didn't hear it because I didn't live in the East Coast, but I know in San Francisco, KSAN, around the country, certain radio stations would have these live broadcasts, sometimes Sunday nights or whenever, of artists. And it came out in the form of 11/17/70 Elton John. Now, this is a UK version. I don't have my original, and you can tell because in the Europe, everywhere else, it's 17/11/70. You know how Americans are backwards, but we do it in order, like the month, how you say it, November 11th, 1970.
Sure.
Of course, in numerical order, you do, day, month. Anyway, that's too complicated to describe. This originally came out with only 7 songs, and it ended up being so popular and bootlegged at the time that they put it out as an official record. Elton John.
No kidding.
Put it out, and it is the best live Elton John record because it's the core trio. All it is Nigel Olsson on drums, Dee Murray on bass, and Elton John on piano. That's it. It rocks harder than anything in a certain way. Take Me to the Pilot. He does a great version of Honky Tonk Woman, Burn Down the Mission, Can I Put You On? It's like one of the coolest live albums. And I used to play this all the time. When I did my 70s, my 90s record purge, I got rid of about 2,000 records, went to CDs, the better format. I got rid of my original. I picked this up recently. This is a German version. That's why it has the correct date. But on Record Store Day a couple years ago, they expanded the full show. The record was honed down because it was like an 80-minute radio broadcast. so it didn't have everything. So this is incredible. It has 2 record set, the entire show. It's such a rockin' record. And this was put out right at the time when Elton John was at his peak.
Sorry. Yeah, that was.
Okay, we're writing it down here.
Yeah.
Elton John was at his peak, so he had a shitload of records out around this period, his first few albums. Great live record, one of the best, one of my favorite live records. And it's great because it was performed in a studio with this very small audience, like a recording studio in New York. So it's not a big club scene or anything with a lot of drunken jerks around.
Kind of like what a lot of the jazz guys were doing back in the 60s.
Oh, exactly,
right?
exactly. Yeah. And it's got that, it's really well recorded, obviously. And it's minimal. I mean, you could say it's like his punk record, which is kind of the stretch, obviously. But it is got that fire that Elton had early on that, he doesn't really have anymore. But,
I wish I'd picked that up on Record Store Day.
Well, you'll find, I mean, even if you see the single one, worked fine for me for 45 years. So, you don't, sometimes you get these expanded ones and you think, do I really need to listen to all the extra cuts? I do it anyway. I'm like you.
Yep, exactly. Just because.
Exactly.
All right. My last one, let me grab it. Hold on. I found this one much later. Actually, I was going to be 5-man electrical band because the song Signs was the first song I truly memorized in my brain and went, that was just like the greatest. I can't tell you anything else on that album. Nothing.
Long-haired freaky people need not apply.
Yep, exactly. Well, we're going to go. This is probably one of my favorites from that time. It's Nick Drake's Brighter Later. Obviously, we know he wasn't a happy guy. A little shy. I don't think he would do VC videos. I feel confident in saying that. But this was a kind of a happy album almost, for him, considering the first one was really down and just kind of quiet. And then he came and did this, and there was the horns in there, and it was more upbeat. That's just what I loved about this thing. There was life to it, Then his next album, it didn't sell again because he wouldn't go out, wouldn't tour, wouldn't talk to anybody. You read about he would go do those concerts and just sit there and look down at the floor and refuse to get with the audience, not because he was snot. It's just he couldn't. So to me it seemed like this was an album they were trying to decide, what can we do with them? Let's make it more upbeat. Maybe that will help sell more. And obviously it didn't. But man, I love this thing. Hazy Jane, too, along with Hazy Jane. A Brighter Later, I think, is beautiful. Poor Boy, Fly.
Doesn't John Cale play on that from Velvet Underground? Doesn't he play cello or something somewhere on there?
Yes, he does. Yes. Yes. And Dave Pegg's on here. Okay. Mark Kowalski on drums. But yes, he's playing the Celeste, piano, organ, viola, harpsichord.
Wow.
Yeah, he's all over the place on it.
I know you're a big reader of biographies and music. Have you read, Joe Boyd's autobiography? You should. What's it called? Something Bicycle, or is it Bicycle? Joe Boyd's a producer who discovered him and produced all his records.
Oh, really?
And he also produced. He's an American expatriate who moved to London in the late '60s and started producing shows at a club called the UFO Club, and they called it the UFO Club. And the house band there for a while was Pink Floyd, and Joe Boyd produced the first Pink Floyd single, but then when they got signed to EMI, he couldn't produce it because they had to use their in-house producer, and Norman Smith produced it. But he also got really into that British, folk music. He produced all the great Fairport Convention albums. He produced Linda's Farm, Incredible String Band. He produced the big Maria Muldaur record. Sweetheart at the, what is it called? Midnight at the Oasis, that whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
So Yeah, a lot of like that kind of rootsy kind of stuff. But his autobiography, you'd love it. It talks about how he's producing these blues shows to make money, and he moved to England and he started.
Uh-huh.
I mean, a little bit of a hustler, but really good. But he really talks a lot about this stuff you were sharing about how shy he was, and he couldn't get him out of his shell. But he was a brilliant in the studio, and
Yeah.
he was
Joe
a
Boyd.
Joe Boyd. It's on. You'll see it. Whoever produced it. Look on the back
Okay.
credits there. It's a
All right.
book. You can get the paperback, and it's just a really good, quick read. But good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I wrote it down even. All right.
I'm just going to close out. I'm not going to say anything about
Yep.
these. These are the other 5. If we did 10, Crazy Horse, the backup band of Neil Young did a solo album, and Nils Lofgren's on it. This is the Yes album. I was going to pull it. I know All Good People. I had to pull one Beatle related, so Ram. I think this might be his best solo album. I like
Uncle Albert, man. There's Uncle Albert is another song. As a kid, it's just ingrained in my brain. I mean, you never got tired of listening to Uncle Albert.
I like it better than Band on the Run. Everyone likes, creams in their jeans over Band on the Run, but I like this. This is that first solo album by Graham Nash, Songs for Years. Great record. And lastly, The Faces, Long Player, second band as The Faces with Rod Stewart and Ronnie Lane and Ron Wood. Great cover of Maybe I'm Amazed, live, Paul McCartney song. 2 live cuts to rest studio. That's 1971 from Mazzy.
And from Steve. Perfect. Appreciate it.
That was fun.
It was a good time. And considering I didn't even have them set up, we did it.
So go to sleep so you can get up for your 4 a.m. call. You always wake me up on Sunday mornings, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow morning. And thanks for doing this.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Mazzy. Yep. Love you too, man. Thanks.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. I don't know how to end the meeting.
I don't know.